Our show's what you know. We'll always watch TV. And if you think we can't, we'll watch more and you'll see. That's why the people of the web believe in Jim from Las Vegas and Jacob from Sweden.
Shows What You Know, your television podcast. I'm Jim from Las Vegas, currently in the Upside Down. Remember there used to be Demogorgon bats here? Apparently they left. They don't live here anymore. So we're doing great. That's why we haven't had an episode in a while, but how you doing? Jacob?
I'm doing well. I'm Jacob from Sweden. Also, mentally upside down, but yeah, sorry, were you talking about the demos? You mean the demos, right?
Yeah, of course.
The demo bats?
Yeah, the demo bats.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Stranger Things. What is it? Fucking 2015? We started this podcast to talk about Stranger Things. We used to own StrangerThingsPodcast.com, and it just didn't pan out in terms of anyone caring about it, so we just let that one lapse. But we have been talking about Stranger Things since day zero, and here we are at Stranger Things 5. 15 million years later. But we've got other stuff as well. We're going to let you know what we've been watching in the 5 years since our last episode. We're going to give you some news. We're going to give you some this and that. We're going to get into Pluribus probably a little bit, that new Vince Gilligan joint. But first of all, Jim, I wasn't even going to talk about news because I was like, we've got so much else to talk about. And then, like, what do? I open my digital newspaper. Hang on. I open my digital newspaper. And what does it say? That basically Netflix and Paramount are fighting for Warner Brother Discovery's attention.
Yes.
It's like a drama. It's like Succession out there in real life, Jim.
Yes, it's really kind of, I forget the South Park thing. Like, you know, you either got to pick dog shit or human shit. I don't know. It's something like that. Because it really is. It's a rough choice. But, I mean, Jacob, we've... just from talking about TV and TV news, we found ourselves constantly getting into these conglomerate selling off assets, buying new ones, joining together, renaming HBO to Max, the one that watched HBO back to HBO Max. So it's been quite I guess David Zaslav's behind all these things, and the Ellison family and the Saudis and Netflix. It's an intriguing story. I can't wait to watch the streaming show about it on whichever network that wins.
Yeah, and they're going to paint themselves as fucking heroes and the other ones as bad guys. Yeah. And that'll be the only version of the story we get because everything will be owned by the same family.
Yes.
What could go wrong? On the dog shit, human shit front in Sweden, we have a saying. Well, it's just kind of like, it's not really a saying, but it's basically like you're choosing between pest, eller kolera, plague or cholera. You have to pick your poison, basically. What's the worst outcome? So anyway, to update y'all, to get you up to speed to where we are right now, you might be listening in the future where you're like, oh, are you talking about Netflix, Mount, Sky, Dance, Disney Plus? Yes, we are. We're talking about how these things came together back in the good old days of 2025. So basically, last Friday, December 5th, 2025, as we're recording this, Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery, they revealed that they had a binding agreement for Netflix to buy the studio operations of HBO and HBO Max for $72 billion. If you've not been keeping track, we've already talked about how David Zaslav absolutely fucked up that entire business, split it into 3 parts, started selling off bits and pieces just to make it more, like, entirely just to sell things off, and now that's coming to fruition. So Netflix, everyone was talking about how Paramount was going to buy HBO and all of this shit, and they put in a bid, but then Netflix swooped in and was like, haha, we're going to get it. And now the latest headline from Variety is Paramount launches hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, valued at $108 billion, seeking to derail Netflix's deal. And subtitle, Paramount's offer includes $24 billion from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi wealth funds. So that's just a fun detail. So basically they've gone into an all-cash offer. And a lot of this stuff, we plebs have a tenuous grasp on how these things actually work because intentionally it's obfuscated from us. They don't want us to understand how these big businesses work. They want us to think there's some sort of logic to it. But to my understanding, basically, Paramount and David Ellison, who is basically, his father's puppet, his father's figurehead, is coming in with cash now because Netflix is trying to buy HBO and doing so with cash and stock. And that's kind of, if you're buying something with stock, it's a little bit like, oh, well, is Netflix going to keep growing in value? Is Netflix reasonably valued right now, or is the stock price going to dip? If so, the price might go down. But now Paramount is like, no, we're giving cash, and they're bringing the offer not to the board of Warner Brothers Discovery, they're going to the shareholders, which is basically trying to zip in and tie up the deal real quickly. And David Ellison is out on a charm offensive, saying all sorts of things about how his enormous corporate conglomerate is actually going to be good for creative workers and the industry versus how bad it would be if Netflix got even bigger. So that's kind of the gist of it. I have loads more detail, but what was your initial thoughts here, Jim?
I mean, this is something right out of the show that I watched on Max, the one to watch for HBO, now known as HBO Max, Succession. Mm-hmm. It's almost like I'm watching an episode of Succession when they're throwing around all these things, and that Swedish actor, I forget his name right now, and he's trying to buy the company, and is he going to be able to do it? Are we just going to buy up stock? And
bear hugs and whatnot.
Yes. All kinds of, there's someone on the phone like, hey, you cocksucker, get me the stock. And then someone else is like, screw you, you piece of shit. Your mother's a whore. Give me the stock. I do have to say, and I know like it really is kind of, again, it's Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose. I do got to lean Paramount. I know there's this whole thing where maybe they bow down to Trump, or there's, Saudi money or whatever it might be. But I mean, we all got to have whatever our selfish reasons might be. And I'm still a big movie theater guy. And I know it's going away. It's dying. But at least this will, that's what they're saying. At least this will keep theatrical alive for a little bit longer. I know Netflix is kind of giving the same lip service where they're saying, hey, we're not going to really mess with how Warner Brothers runs things. We just want the catalog, but we want to keep things going on their end as is. But they're also saying, but hey, we really need to shorten these theatrical windows, and it's an outdated platform, and we got to get it back to streaming. And I don't know. I know it's like, doesn't really matter in the end. It's going to be probably bad to be the doom and gloom people. But I gotta edge out Paramount a little bit on who I'm rooting for. Like, yeah, get that Saudi money, throw these billions around. Let's take this shit over.
Yeah, I think that really shows the value of a good brand as well, right? Because when you think of Paramount, you think of all the sort of positive experiences you've had in relation to Paramount movies in the past, which I would argue has very little, if none at all, connection to the current corporate leadership and what they want to do. It's a company at this stage that's already been severely gutted through their previous acquisition process, where it should just be called Skydance, but they had the brains that David Zaslav didn't, and they were like, oh, people like Paramount. Let's not immediately rename it Skydance, Superboys. Let's keep the thing that people like. And that's why, I mean, also, Netflix used to be cool and sexy, like we said, with Stranger Things 10 years ago when they just put out one season of House of Cards and, Stranger Things. And now we're really seeing how their model of television making is sort of making everything pretty shitty in a different way. It's just, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, like how streaming shows are different from regular shows. Paramount has that legacy, and that is kind of what David Zaslav, no, not David Zaslav, that's what David Ellison is whipping around, where he's saying things like you were saying, like he's vowing we're going to release more than 30 films theatrically if we get this through, and this is actually going to be good for creative workers and all sorts of things. That's what they're saying, and because they've brought it directly to shareholders, hilariously, they've launched a website called strongerhollywood.com that just has a bunch of details about, like, here's why this is going to be way better, guys, than if you go with Netflix. Now, there are some practical reasons if you're a shareholder that you would think so, because, they've got Jared Kushner in the mix, so Trump's kind of semi-involved, so they'll probably be able to get through this, even though a merger like this should, of course, be illegal under any reasonable antitrust laws. But setting that aside, they have probably more of a likelihood to get that through if they already got the government involved. And hey, why not get the Saudi government involved as well? As I said, what could go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, at least even going by that, like looking at some Skydance releases, I'm still seeing some good stuff. Although I guess if I looked at a list of Netflix releases, I'd probably still see some good stuff as well. But I mean, I'm a big Mission Impossible guy, and from Mission Impossible 3 on, Skydance was involved. Also, the movie Annihilation. And of course, Terminator Genesis, which was horrible. And of course, Baywatch, which was horrible. Of course, the G.I. Joe movies. Oh, but Top Gun Maverick. All right. But anyways, yeah, you're right. It's such like a power grab, power whatever, because I don't know. It feels like I see all these arguments again, and they keep it so complicated. So you never know like who's on one and who's correct. I mean, I did see a decent breakdown that was more about how the Netflix move would be Netflix getting their last kind of legitimate threat away. I mean, obviously there's Disney Plus, but HBO Max and like as a brand in their catalog, and what they were kind of starting to build up a bit is the only one that kind of had a fighting chance with the way Netflix has grown. So it just sucks because streaming is so terrible. But you're right. It's not like just because Paramount gets it that we're going to get these awesome movies. It's rough thinking of it from the Warner Brothers stance, where Warner Brothers actually had a really great year as far as theatrical releases between both box office and just quality movies, in my opinion. Between like Sinners, Final Destination, Bloodline, Weapons. I think there was a few other ones. But yeah, like that, is that just an accident though too? Like did that just kind of happen? Those are things in motion and they happen to come out all in the same year. But the good thing about that, if you're Zaslav, is you're like, look at what we did this year. Like this plumps this turkey of a company up to make it look even better, where you do have a Netflix and a Paramount or Paramount Skydance fighting over your library. The other thing I'm concerned with, and people have brought this up, and this doesn't really go either way. I don't think anyone's can give pros to either winner. Is Warner's also has like a really great proprietary film restoration wing where they really try to preserve the history. Plus, I go to their studio all the time. I guess I assume that wouldn't really change, but you never know when one of these companies buys up the company itself. Like I go on their studio tour. I'm going next week to their Gilmore Girls Holidays Made Here. There's a lot of storied history just, in the company and on those grounds. And I don't know, does that stuff end up getting pissed away? Because another angle is the theme park angle. Because before it started really narrowing down to Netflix, Universal was in the mix, and you got dummies online that are like, Universal can buy Warner Brothers and then they could bulldoze studios and build more theme park rides. And it's like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Shut the fuck up, you idiots.
Yeah. And those factors you were saying about like when they're putting out good movies or this or that, like obviously I love film and TV. I just also hate capitalism, right? But those positive movies and things like that is what allows David Ellison to say things like this quote that I found that is, our focus is on expanding creative output, not dominating the sector, as Netflix envisions. Our goal is to make Hollywood stronger in a way that benefits the entire ecosystem. And that is just so absurd, like on its face, like just looking at it. Like, I think it's worth speculating like what will happen if it goes one way or the other way, but I really think it'll be pretty much the same thing, because all these companies have made things that I love in the past, and all of their goals are the same. It's monopolization and then pushing up prices. And duopolies are kind of equally bad, so maybe it's kind of fucked either way. But I think the thing that makes this really special is Larry Ellison being one of the richest people in the world through Oracle. People have been paying less attention to him than your Musks and your Zuckerbergs. I think people are starting to catch on to why Larry Ellison is becoming one of the most influential people in the world. Between this and his attempted and highly likely acquisition of TikTok's US operations, Ellison is building a media empire that will rival or surpass Rupert Murdoch in his prime, right? Rupert Murdoch being the one whose Succession is based on, right? That is all that story. And now the difference is going to be that this new version is going to be straddling new media with TikTok and old media with Paramount and HBO and Warner Brothers and Skydance and all these things in a way that we've never seen before. And who has fingers in the pot? Well, the US government does, the Saudi Arabian governments do, and that's just the way it's going to go probably no matter what, because even if Netflix gets the deal for whatever reason, they still have to get it through like antitrust reviews and things like that. So they also have to give things up, and as far as like influence and ownership and all these sorts of things. So what my headline or my I guess like conclusion is, the same thing's going to happen as usual. Rich cunts are going to get richer. Creative workers are going to get squeezed from both directions. And we're going to see layoffs occur on a never before seen scale. Well, maybe never, but it's going to be bad. Just as an example, Paramount claims that the combined Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery business, they'll be able to see more than $6 billion in cost synergies. Cost synergies, of course, are when you just fire everybody. And anytime there's an acquisition like this, you take on enormous debt as well and leverage that. So it means that you have to make more money, and you do that by firing a bunch of good people and driving up prices for consumers. And yet he has the gall to be out there saying that this is going to be good for Hollywood and it's pro-consumer.
Well, it is. It's a good strategy. I can't fault the strategy. But also, I don't have it in front of me. Maybe you don't either. Isn't it something similar to where Netflix is not really interested in the news portion of it, right? But Paramount is, because Paramount kind of wants CNN or kind of
yes, I believe so, because they're at least the Netflix deal from last week. Who knows how this is going to change? But what they were trying to do is just to buy HBO and HBO Max for $72 billion. Versus Paramount is out there going for the whole kit and caboodle, which might sit better with shareholders as well, right? Because that means more money. But yes, they would also own CNN, TBS, TNT, other networks. So it's not, as I said, it's old media and new media in a glorious mix that will all be controlled by one family. Like we're in fucking feudal times again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. So I don't know enough of the specifics on the Netflix deal, because where does that leave the actual studio? I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot. You might not know this as well either. But where does that leave the studio grounds itself, like the studio?
Like if they're worried about the theme parks.
No. I'm not worried about the theme parks. I'm worried about just here's a studio lot. It's historical. Would Netflix own that or no? Like that just Warner Brothers still exists. They've just sold off HBO and HBO Max.
I'm not 100% because as I said, they make it confusing for a reason, but they did split up what was Warner Brothers before into 3 different entities. And we talked about that like 4 or 5 episodes ago. So I don't have it right now, but I'm sure some fuckery will occur. But what we know is going to happen here.
They must also, HBO Max, but probably DC, like probably all the IPs, I guess, is what they were looking at, the catalog itself, correct?
For sure. And so things are going to happen fairly quickly regardless, because Warner Brothers Discovery, they're now required by law to inform shareholders within 10 business days whether they'll accept or reject Paramount's Skydance $30 per share offer. So something's happening. And Paramount, they're saying they can close this deal within 12 months. Netflix projected that it'll take 12 to 18 months to close the deal. That's not really a massive factor, but it just means these types of mergers do take a lot of time, and both of them have got itchy trigger fingers and are really trying to make this happen. So let's see how it pans out.
You know who's excited either way? The Snyder fans. Because they think that this is going to restore the Snyderverse. Netflix is going to bring it back. Cuts. Well, what's so funny is because people, I mean, again, not that we even understand fully, but people don't really have understandings on how, because someone's already like, when Netflix buys Warner Brothers, they're not going to continue this Harry Potter show. And it's like, do you understand that by the time this is done, where it would even make a difference, like they're already going to be in production on that show. So the show may fail, and get canceled, or something, probably won't. But if it goes away, it's more so because it wasn't doing well. It has nothing to do with Netflix being like, this is not how we make shows. Like it, and similar with people are talking about like the James Gunn DC universe or whatever. It's like, no, they already have a movie coming out next summer, a movie coming out the summer after that, TV shows. It still may fail, but it's not going to be like Netflix comes in and like, get out of here. They're going to be like, oh, this is not doing well. Like if it's a hit, Netflix is not going to be like, oh, let's get rid of this hit. So
of course not. And regardless of J.K. Rowling, transforming herself into a pure hate activist, Harry Potter is still one of the most valuable intellectual properties that exists. So it's not like they're going to spend $108 billion or $72 billion, depending on who wins the bid, and then go like, you know what? Let's not do anything with Harry Potter. Like, that's not happening.
It's going to be an exciting 12 to 18 months. Let's get our bets in now.
Yeah. So we've got lots to talk about today, Jim. And I realized recently that what often ends up happening is I'll tell you about my first impressions of a show. I'll let you know I've watched 1 or 2 episodes and we chat about it. And then by the time I finish it, maybe I don't have that much to add. Maybe I just have like some final thoughts, and maybe it doesn't deserve the full what you've been watching jingle that all our fans are constantly craving, right? So I've actually put something together to help us with this problem, and it'll sort of reduce the amount of unnecessary jingles on this show. If you wouldn't mind, we're going to launch into that segment right now. Final thoughts. These are some final thoughts.
Ooh,
that's right. It's not like a full section. We're just going to do some final thoughts here, Jim. And please feel free to do final thoughts for yourself when necessary. But for example, the Lowdown. We talked about the Lowdown a bunch.
Lowdown, yes.
Did you finish it off? Did you keep going with it, or?
I did not. I've just been so behind on everything, because it's not for the reason why I say that is because it's not for lack of liking the show or anything like that. I just I've just been busy. So
that's me in life in general. But because I finished it, I do have some final thoughts. Can you give literally a 1-sentence summary of what the show is, just so we don't confuse people utterly?
It's about a citizen. It's Ethan Hawke plays a citizen reporter type guy that gets caught up in this maybe larger conspiracy in where does it take place again? I'm spaced.
Tulsa.
Yeah, in Tulsa. So we get to meet this, wide range of characters. It's kind of got like a Western / film noir aspect to it. I keep coming back to Big Lebowski because his character is kind of like a lovable fool that, falls into all these situations. And it's his adventures as he's unraveling this conspiracy in Tulsa.
Great. Thank you. And it's another show from FX, who have been making really good shows lately. Yes. One's worth watching for FX. FX, the one to watch for FX. So anyway, final thoughts is I finished it, and overall it's a recommend for me. I think the Lowdown is doing something interesting and different. It's worth following through and watching the full season. It's a little all over the place, but that is definitely part of the charm. And the key thing to remember as you're watching it is that it is, as you said, a sun-drenched noir story with tropes and all. It looks nothing like a classic noir, but that's also what it is. And I love the weird blend. And it's also, even though the characters and events are fictional, it's very clearly rooted in this city of Tulsa and in the state, and the creator has a connection to this place and these people. So it's over the top, but because of that, it still manages to feel somewhat grounded and real. I also like that the main character Ethan Hawke plays is a bad dad, and he never gets any better. If I were to critique it, things do seem to be connecting somewhat randomly at times. I can't fully be like, wow, Ethan Hawke's so impressive with his detective work and journalism, because there's a lot of randomness involved. But I do like the basic format, which ends up being he keeps going on information gathering adventures with different friends and family. He like brings one along on different episodes, and we get to see weird little parts of this world. So one episode he's off with his daughter, then he's off with Peter Dinklage, then he's off with the girl who works in this shop, and then like the guy with the eye patch. Like, he's always off gathering stuff. And you know what? These are just final thoughts. That's pretty much it. Check out the Lowdown. It's pretty good.
Hell yeah.
Some more final thoughts. I have some more final thoughts. Additional thoughts that are final. I have final thoughts.
Ooh, more final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I finished Chief of War as well, so some final thoughts on that. If you'll recall, that's the Jason Momoa show. It's set in sort of Hawaiian history in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
If you open Apple TV, you will have seen him sort of scowling at you, trying to get you to watch it. And overall, I watched the full season, and it really grew on me. Like, I liked it more and more as it went on. It's got some fantastic fight scenes, and the plot is not very complicated, which I think kind of helps, because it's basically straightforward drama set between action set pieces. And where it really shines is in its depiction of the culture. The time and effort and money that they've just poured into that is staggering. You can tell that it's Apple TV, and Apple's just keep selling 1 billion iPhones every year, and they're just like, here, have a ridiculous amount of money. And they've spent that making really, really period accurate costumes and things that you would never notice or know consciously, be like, oh yes, I know what that is. But you can just feel it. You can feel that they've put the effort in behind the scenes. Like, for example, the tikis, these big carved wooden statues, they have them in the show, and they're carved from trees that are hundreds of years old that would have been around on this island during the plot of the show. And then they were like, fuck it, we'll get in people who are modern day practitioners of the religion and have them bless these, meaning that they're no longer just props, they're actual spiritual objects. They have been anointed into being the like actual spiritual objects, and they spend the same amount of effort crafting the cloaks and all of this, and none of this is said explicitly on screen, but you can really feel it, and it brings you into the world. So yeah, I recommend Chief of War. It felt a bit at the start like, oh, it's like they're trying to do Game of Thrones in Hawaii. It's nowhere near as complicated as Game of Thrones. It has fantastic action set pieces. And my highest compliment is, of course, at the start, I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of characters that I don't know, and there's Jason Momoa. And by the end, I'm like, oh no, that's Kayana. I don't even think of him as Jason Momoa by the end of it. I think of him as the character, which takes a lot. When he looks a lot like himself, and does the thing that he always does. But he's involved in the making of it, and he really cares about it. And there's just a lot of care and effort's gone into this show, and it is worth checking out.
Yet another Apple TV show that no one's talking about. So.
Yup. Anyway, those were just my final thoughts, Jim.
Let me think here.
Some more final thoughts. I have some more final thoughts. Additional thoughts that are final. I have final thoughts.
Real quick one, because I didn't think to like jot down or expand on this, but I did finish Mr. Scorcese, which we were talking about. And,
so did I.
Okay, and I mean, came through on the other side basically with the same praise that I had going into it. It's a great watch. And I mean, probably one of the best compliments I could give it is that it almost could have used another episode or two, kind of, because as we start to catch up, like we spend a lot in the early days, which is great. It lays the foundation, tells us who he is, his family life, how he got into movies, some of his early movies and stumbles, and what worked for him professionally, what didn't. And then as we start catching up, we do rush a little bit more through some of the more recent releases. But I mean, he's a fascinating filmmaker. I could hear about him for, at least another couple hours. It was 4 episodes, I think, and well worth a watch. It's amazing too, where hearing about the stories about some of the movies that were, kind of thrust upon him in a way. Like, I guess it was kind of known. It's like Raging Bull. I don't want to make a boxing movie. What do I know about boxing? Like stuff like that. Yeah. Movies that are thought of as classics but the stories of how they came to be, and then even just hearing the idea of it being hard for him to get a movie made. It really does show that, like a lot of movies end up being kind of shitty, but it is a miracle when things get like you get past the point of being greenlit, going through the actual production and releasing something. It takes so much to get to that finish line. And I think the documentaries, you think of someone like Scorcese, like he should be able to do whatever he wants, and he should. But then again, now he's asking for more hundreds of millions of dollars to do crazy things. And, we were slagging off Netflix, but Netflix at least came through and was like, hey, here's a check. We'll do what you want to do, Scorcese. Let's go. So yeah, fascinating watch, amazing filmmaker, great man all around. We should cherish him while he's here, because it's going to be sad when he's not. So yeah, full on recommend for me.
I agree. Very quick cosign of that final thought. And it's made me watch multiple 70s movies since then. I was like, oh yeah, this is when they made movies that I care about now. I've rewatched Jaws and a bunch of stuff, just watched What's Up, Doc, Peter Bogdanovich. I just went to The Godfather and was like, what else came out this year? And just checked a bunch of other stuff out. Makes you excited about films again, which is, we need that in this culture of endless mergers. So, yeah.
I think that's all the final thoughts.
That's it for final thoughts. Let's get some new thoughts up in here.
All right. Yeah, let's see.
What TV shows have you been watching? Tell me, I gotta know.
Well, I mean, these are almost final thoughts, but there's things I want to check in real quick. So, as you know me, I like to watch reality shows. Squid Game, The Challenge was back, so I started watching it again. And I get it. I think I talked about this when I watched the first season. Like, hey, that's not what Squid Game's about. Squid Game's about capitalism. Yeah, I understand. But it's still a goddamn fascinating watch, because it does kind of get into, like, we learn who these people are a bit. Reality shows in general, Survivor or whatever, you could look down upon them because it is like people on TV, and we're kind of exploiting their stories and their journey to try to get this quick $1 million or whatever it is to make better lives for them and their family. But we can all relate to that in a certain respect. And also, like, it's so cornball, but I love it. When people get eliminated, a fucking squib goes off in their shirt. Yeah. Like they got shot and they have to pretend to die. I assume it's in the contract or something. And my favorite thing about the show, or one of my favorite things, is everyone has kind of their own version of how they're going to pretend to die. Like, some people really sell it. Like, they put it in and you're like, good on you, man. You're really selling it. You're kind of doing a fall. You're doing like a dramatic thing. Other people don't know how to do it. And they're just like, it's an afterthought, where there's like, and then just like, lay down for a nighty night or something. And weirdly enough, because I watched the first half of the last season of Squid Game, and then when it came back, like during the summer, it just kind of got by me. Again, I was busy. Yeah. But I'd watched like 2 episodes or something. So as I was watching the Squid Game, The Challenge, they were bringing in games from the second season. And I got concerned because I was like, fuck, what if they get to a game that I haven't seen yet? So it motivated me to then stop watching Squid Game, The Challenge, and then go back and finish Squid Game. And then when I finished Squid Game, I went back and finished Squid Game, The Challenge. So this whole
Jim, I'm sorry. You've okay, Squid Game, one of the biggest TV shows ever on Netflix. I've watched 1 episode of season 2. You've watched all of it. Yeah. And here we are on what you've been watching. You're like, let me tell you about Squid Game, The Challenge. Let's not talk about the boring show, Squid Game 2. Let's talk about Squid Game, The Challenge.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting choice.
Yeah, let's talk about the show I had to watch, so I made sure I was caught up for Squid Game, The Challenge. Yeah. But no, what I do like about Squid Game itself, because I remember hearing a lot of mixed stuff on the last batch of episodes and the show as a whole. And I mean, I didn't double check this, but I did hear that the creator was very much like, I don't really want to do another fucking season. And so he was kind of like, all right, you want another season? We'll fucking take this shit. And I really appreciate that. It's a very David Chase kind of way to go about it, because he's saying like, no, I'm trying to tell you something, you stupid motherfuckers. And you're like, give me more. Because people are complaining about like, oh, it's predictable. Why'd this happen? And it's like, well, pay attention to the themes, you motherfucker, and what he's trying to do. Because even though I read that there was that attitude towards it, I still don't think they didn't really phone it in either. I do feel like they were going for some stuff. They still had some very interesting arcs that played out with the characters. And I mean, it gets a little weird because like a baby gets involved. Now a baby's in the game. And I mean, obviously the show is suffering. The show is, you have to, it's similar, again, to go back to like Sopranos and David Chase, like you're not supposed to be having a good time watching this. So at the end, you're not supposed to be like, what an awesome ending. That was great. I mean, the main thing I do feel like you could complain about is that it is, hey, let's set up our American version or whatever. That gets a bit like, oh, fuck. That kind of stinks. But I mean, I know I'm not saying anything new here, but Squid Game, good show. But also, have you watched Squid Game, The Challenge?
So tell me more about Squid Game, The Challenge. Is it done? Is it finished?
It is done. Yes. They had... what's interesting is there's so many contestants, so it's like obviously a lot different than other reality shows. So they did literally start with 450 people, but they had to quickly cut that off. Like they had to, they broke them up into two big groups, and I think I read somewhere that they may have stole this from a Mr. Beast thing, but who knows? Maybe Mr. Beast stole it from someone else. But Mr. Beast also stole a lot from Squid Games, but they did one of those things where they had to keep count, and there's a button in the room, and we have to hit the button when we think we're at 5 minutes or whatever it might be.
Right.
Hit the button. Whoever's closest, your team stays. The other room, they're all fucking gonzo. See you later. So like they cut it down really quick as much as they can, doing stuff like that. But there's interesting relationships. I mean, there's a father-daughter group that's there. There's a brother-sister. There's a twins. So as you start, like, people are, hey, I'm making relationships, trying to build alliances, but also we need to get someone away because, hey, that's your family member. There's no way. This is all classic. Like, this is Survivor stuff as well. Yeah. And it really does get, I mean, at least I'm a like easily manipulated, but sometimes I could get pretty emotional watching the show, even though obviously people aren't really dying, but but they are being eliminated, which is kind of the beautiful thing. So if you're on a father-daughter team or whatever, you're going to be sad when the other person gets eliminated. So that's nice. Yeah. And it reminds me a lot because I listen to people talk about being on Survivor, or even being on the MTV, The Challenge. Even if you're only somewhere for like 3 weeks or a month, like that's a long time when you're, in one location, you have no communication with the outside world, and you're always in a game where you can never trust anyone. So really, I mean, again, I'm not like doing any favors, because I'm basically saying we're watching people being like psychologically abused, because you're in this environment where, you'll probably get overly emotional as well, because all like after a day, it's probably like, this is my life now. I'm in the Squid Game room and we're waiting for whatever mic drop they're going to have on us with a new game or a twist. And so if you're there for like 3 weeks, even if someone who's your friend that you just met like a week ago, you're going to get all fucked up and emotional when they have to go home, because you're like, oh my God, I can't trust anyone anymore. I have no one to talk to. So I don't know. It's wild. I think it's good trash TV, but also I feel like it's better than you'd expect as far as just studying people and relationships and how that stuff can play out. Being the creator of the TV show Squid Game must be bonkers, because, people watched his show and what they got away, the takeaway was, great idea, let's make that real. And like, just imagine if that happened to David Chase. No wonder he's there bashing his head against the wall, just trying to, come on, look, I'm in season 2 and it's even worse. Come on, guys. But nobody cares. Yeah. But it kind of makes sense, because like, we're, as
humans, we are busy all of the time, and most of the time we're looking for fairly light fare. You know, Squid Game, the challenge, I feel like, is the lighter fare version. You don't actually see people dying. It's more of the fun game show aspect, right? You're not always going to be in the mood for the heavy meal that is Squid Game. So with that in mind, it is kind of hilarious that you that's what made you watch the second season.
But also, I mean, like, what I don't like, though, because I do get it, like, there's some baggage involved because of the actual Squid Game show. But we've been watching shows like this forever. I mean, even going back to a basic game show. And some people, at least here in the States, they like to think they're holier than thou because they'll watch like a Korean game show, or they'll watch, I think there's a Korean game show that's about like board games. And I've heard people talk about it and it sounds fine, but they're kind of like, oh yes, like it's not like Survivor. People are actually trying to help each other on this show. And it's like, you don't watch Survivor then, because that happens on Survivor. Like you think that you're better than trash TV when you're watching foreign trash TV. So I don't know. When it comes down to it, it still is hitting a lot of the same themes, and it still gets some of the same points across, because it is, yes, it is about like, fuck, we're playing a kid's game because we could really use this fucking money because we're all hurting out here. At least that's how I see it.
For sure. Yeah, basically, Jacob, fuck off with your Great British Bake Off is what you're saying. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. All right.
What TV shows have you been watching? Tell me, I gotta know.
Right, Jim? Well, I got another quick one for you, and this one is a show that I've been told by people for years to check out. Some of those people are listeners to this very podcast, so I just mentioned it a second ago, right? I don't know how you organize your watch list mentally or whatever, but there really are things that you're like, oh, I should watch this, but I have to use my brain loads. It seems like it'll be like kind of a heavy meal versus lighter fare that requires very little concentration, basically fast food. And I don't blame anyone for going for the fast food, because we are busy human beings and every screen around us is looking to provide us with endless distractions. So even any TV show is probably better than just swiping on your phone, right? So why would it be such a bad thing to go for a lighter fare type show? That said, the show I'm talking about today is Slow Horses. And in my mind, I've always thought of that, like all I knew about it was like, it's a spy thriller. So my assumption is, okay, it's in the heavy meal category. Like Gary Oldman's in it. Last time I saw him as a spy was in the film Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which I did love, but that is not a light meal, you know? You don't expect it to be a light meal. And Slow Horses, as I now understand, after watching 2.5 seasons in a very short amount of time, it is entirely on the lighter fare side. I think that's why I wasn't going for it, because I'm like, I don't want to, spy intrigue and stuff, and I have to like, conspiracies and figure out mysteries and stuff. It just doesn't seem like what I want. But it's actually very light, very easy, but not in a way that makes you feel like you've had an unnutritious meal, which is great. So basic concept is it's a spy thriller, like I said. It's about Slough House, which is a place for MI5 spies who are basically rejects of the service, people who fucked up one way or another, but not badly enough to get sacked. So they're just shipped off from the main MI5 to just go do menial tasks, do nothing, do parking tickets, working for this miserable boss, Jackson Lamb, who is played by Gary Oldman, and like do nothing, and eventually you'll just leave, or maybe you'll be let back in, but probably not. And that's the setup for it. Of course, they end up involved in bigger cases of national importance and all that sort of thing. But the spy games aspect they end up playing are as much against the rest of MI5 as against anyone else. There's a lot of sort of internal political spy maneuvering. Like I've lost count of how many times people from Slough House have infiltrated the park, which is what they call like the main MI5 type base. But one of the things I like about the show is that the agents actually are incompetent in one way or another. Unlike your spy shows where everyone's just kind of like, playing mental chess and like lots of pictures, lots of shots of chessboards and like who's doing what. It's more like things are happening chaotically and they try to make sense of it. And the only guy who seems like he's actually really competent is Gary Oldman. but he's also like ruthlessly competent, but he has the vibe of like, yeah, maybe he should have been running all of MI5, but he's an alcoholic asshole. So, and he's been through so much Cold War bullshit that he's too scarred. He's lost too many people, and he's extremely abusive towards all of the other characters. Like he's constantly coming out with great lines, just taking them down a peg, but then secretly he's also very protective of them. So he's basically in Slough House because he can't stand the high stakes game where his people keep dying. So but of course, people end up dying. High stakes things starts happening, and every season as well. Very importantly, is 6 episodes, and they're like 40 minutes to an hour, something like that each episode, and they breeze by. Like I watched the whole season. I thought it was going to be like, oh, let's see what happens this time. The pace is crazy. Like every season is about like one incident. So the whole first season is about like one kidnapping. But instead of that feeling dragged out, it's just like go, 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 go. It's like endless. Like one of the guys who's in Slough House, he loves to run very Tom Cruise style, but I think of him as a sort of TMU Tom Cruise, a sort of budget version of Tom Cruise. He's always doing the run, but like he's running it to the wrong place. He's making mistakes. And that's way more entertaining to watch, really, than people are just like, oh, I'm so brilliant at being a spy and I never make a mistake. They're constantly making mistakes, and things just unravel, and it's pretty good.
I've been hearing a lot about this show recently. Very good things. So, is this on Apple TV as well?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. So it's probably somehow you've heard about it though, so that's got to be a good sign.
I've definitely been hearing more and more about this show. So it's picking up, at least for some reason. I guess a lot of good word of mouth because I've been hearing some positive stuff. So I've been meaning to check it out as well.
Well, you know, one thing that you're gonna love about this is they've released a season every year since they started. Actually,
let's go.
In 2022, when this show started, they released 2 seasons, like one early in the year, one late in the year, and then they released one in 2023, one in 2024, one in 2025, and every season ends with a next season on, where they show a bunch of clips because they've already fucking filmed it. So, you know, old school TV, what more can I say?
I'm impressed. That's probably why I'm hearing a lot of good things, because they're just like feeding the beast. Can't be this
cowards.
Whoops, sorry. Can't be this got a subscriber. Can't do this bullshit where we're making people, stringing people along for 3 years before we put out another 4 episodes or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's written by Will Smith, no relation. At the end of it, start of every episode is just like created by Will Smith, and I'm just like, it's so funny. But he's a writer who most notably has worked on The Thick of It and Veep. And that dry sense of humor from those shows is still a little bit there. So, and it's based on this series of spy novels that are also very new. And it's clearly by this writer who just is churning them out. Like he's written like 10 books in the last 10 years or whatever, all in the same world. So there's plenty of material. So, and given the people are liking it, they'll probably do another 5 seasons. So definitely a good one for binging, way lighter than I thought it would be. And I'm sorry to everyone who told me for years to check it out.
Excellent. Let me see. I got one other one.
What TV shows have you been watching? Tell me, I gotta know.
Something a little bit more now or recent. I mean, depending on when this goes up, at least it's now for now. It just went up on Netflix. Is the Sean Combs The Reckoning documentary series. That's P. Diddy for the layman.
Ooh. Yeah.
Apparently, I mean, 50 Cent is somehow involved in this. He produced it, I believe. And if you don't know 50 Cent is another rapper. And he is kind of known for his trolling. And I mean, I guess this is the ultimate troll. Like, hey, I'm going to drop a Netflix docuseries about what a monster you are. I've only watched 1 episode, but already it's really well put together. It's kind of laying out similar to what I was just talking about with like the Scorcese doc. It's laying out who Sean Combs is, maybe where his drive came from, how he came up, and like his goal to be in the music business. He always wanted to be, you know, the guy. And just, it's already setting up that this is another classic tale of what happens to people when their dreams come true. And then they be like, I guess it's not enough. So they become the worst. It's only hinted at some of the darkness that's going on there. If you don't know that, P. Diddy was indicted, or actually, no, he was charged. What was that, last year? Or actually, maybe during this year. For, it was something like sex trafficking, prostitution. I think he got 50 months. I think they said, because it'll pop up, of course, with Netflix. It'll always say, like, it'll even hint when it's something else. It'll just be Diddy yelling at his lawyer on the phone. And then it'll pop up like, Sean Combs was charged with these counts and has 50 months of 50 months of service to prison or whatever. Because there's a videographer that's following him around New York while all this stuff is going on. And I don't know how he signed off on this footage, how 50 Cent got the footage, but that's, I guess, the journey. And
see, that's the only thing I've heard. I haven't watched it, but I heard that basically Diddy was getting him a documentary made about himself. Like, he had hired a guy to do the videography stuff, and then he never paid the guy. Ooh. And 50 Cent was like, I'll fucking pay you. As you said, the ultimate, like, fuck you troll of, like, fantastic access. I just get this footage. So I don't know how it works with rights, and he must maybe sign something before the documentary filming started or whatever, but then he never paid. Maybe there was a breach of contract. I don't really know. That's just what I heard, and that is a fantastic little piece of trivia, and it just makes sense for why they would have that level of access.
It's wild the way these things happen like that. It's happened so many times, but like this, because the movie, the show opens with the first scene. Yeah, he's in New York. All the stuff's going down as far as possible indictments and convictions. And he's on the phone with his lawyer, and he's even saying stuff like, we need to get, he's like, because the lawyer's like, look, there's no indictment, calm down. We're going to handle this. And he's like, no, because he's like, not everyone knows what you're saying. He's like, because he's basically saying on the news and what people are talking about online, they think even worse than what the charges are, which is true. I do remember people, at least on Twitter and stuff, they were talking about like, underage sex pest crimes. And I mean, and not to say that didn't happen, but at least it wasn't like in the charges. And he's like, we need to get the shadiest people out there to put out the right narratives. And it's like wild to have him on camera, like saying these things. And this is just the first scene. Before now we're flashing back to him as a kid and dropping out of college to really try to pursue being in music as far as like an executive or production role. So I know it's been getting a lot of steam online, so I'm excited to watch the rest of the episodes because it's already really well done. And getting into, of course, it's like the Scorcese one. We end on a nice thing where we're at the point where now we got Biggie involved. We got Tupac. They're pitching it. Now they're like hinting at the idea of like the whole East Coast, West Coast thing happened just because Diddy was jealous that Tupac and Biggie were friends. Like, he doesn't like that. Hey, that's my friend. And then it ends, I think, on the line. The first episode ends on the line of like, I do believe that Puff Daddy was involved in Tupac's murder. And then it's like, boom, credits. Next episode. Of course you want to watch the next episode. So that's on Netflix right now. Maybe the future owner of HBO or Max the one to watch for HBO. Yeah.
Sounds good. Got to check it out. I can't wait.
What TV shows have you been watching? Tell me, I gotta know.
Jim, I'm going to put Stranger Things in the thumbnail of this at youtube.com/showswhatyouknow, where we post the video version of this podcast, if you don't know. It's been an hour, and we haven't talked about Stranger Things. It's been almost an hour. We haven't talked about Stranger Things, so we should probably get into it, right?
Let's talk about Stranger Things. Stranger Things 5?
Yeah, Stranger Things 5
Volume 1. Yeah, Volume 1.
Sorry, Volume, yeah. So we are able to discuss the first 4 episodes, which is what's out right now. That was released on November 25th. And then there's going to be, to wrap it all up, there's going to be 3 more episodes on Christmas Day and one last finale on New Year's Eve 2025. So right now we're just going to be chatting about the first 4 episodes. I'd say we'll have spoilers, but I don't even care about putting a spoiler warning there, honestly. But let's talk in vague terms initially, and we'll let you know. We'll let you know when we get into details, I guess. But yeah, Stranger Things is back. How did you feel before putting it on?
Well, the first thing I felt was, what the fuck happened on this show again? I'm like, oh my God, it's been years. I'm trying to think what, and
You didn't go to an AI generated recap on YouTube?
I didn't even bother this time. And there was no real action on my part to rewatch because I was like, oh yeah, they're all the episodes are like an hour and a half. They're like feature length films.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember the gist, and I remember that, I remember it ended on a cliffhanger, but I already had suspicions based on the trailers is that they were going to ignore that cliffhanger. Well, not ignore it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Quickly. And I've talked about this on this show a bunch of times because that is a TV mainstay.
Oh,
Especially back in the days when a show would end in May for the summer and come back in September. It would always end on a cliffhanger, but then in September when the show came back, the first 2 episodes or whatever were about just kind of like fixing the cliffhanger without actually having anything change too much. So, but I do feel like it was pretty egregious the way they kind of ignored the cliffhanger from Stranger Things 4. That already put me in kind of a bad, that already put a bad taste in my mouth. It's fun to see these characters again. I mean, I do like the characters. I like the vibe of the show. I love the synth soundtrack, but I'm kind of so over it. And I think I'm in the minority because, on my social media feed, people really are obsessed with the show. They love it, which is great. I mean, I love that people love it, but I'm down with it to get to the end. And there's definitely some flourishes in this season that I really liked. But overall, I feel like a lot of it is kind of really tough to get through, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I did watch a sort of summary of season 4, which is a good thing because fucking loads of shit happened in Stranger Things 4 that I had forgotten about, obviously. So I was a little bit better prepared. All the same, it is a bit rough going back into it. Even if you're okay with, them resetting the status quo a bit, there's just, in the first episode in particular, a lot of information that's delivered in a pretty clunky way just to catch us up. That said, there are aspects that I enjoy. I think the magic sauce, the secret sauce that they've figured out is if we just wait 3.5 years between seasons, obviously everyone's like, give me more TV shows. We're always like, fucking slow horses. Give me a fucking season every year. But the magic of it is now it's been long enough that people are nostalgic. Stranger Things started in 2016, so now it doesn't really matter how good it is because now it has the vibe of a fucking legacy sequel because it's literally been 10 years and they've put out they put out 5 seasons. Each one's only like 8 or 9 episodes each. There's not that much Stranger Things, but it's just been around for such a long time. But I'll tell you real quick to my thoughts on the previous seasons, having not rewatched them either. I remember season 1 as being great, and I do think season 1 is still great. Yeah. Seasons 2 to 3, I disliked quite heavily, and I think the quality dipped because they kept trying to repeat the same thing, and they did so poorly. And then Stranger Things 4, the reason I was surprised to enjoy it, I mean, at that stage, it had already been a number of years, right? So 2016 was the first season. Stranger Things 4 was 2022, so it's been 3.5 years since then, but it had already been such a long time. The characters had grown up so much. They did at least do something different. And I think the big shift was kind of there in that they were doing a lot of spooky horror, eldritch, terrible stuff. Not terrible, like scary stuff. They did fucking scary stuff in the first few seasons. Yeah. And then it turned more into, it feels more like a superhero show, where the Upside Down in the early seasons was like actually scary and it had this existential horror and dread to it. And then with the reveals from season 4 of even just like how the Upside Down was created and all that stuff, it's like, oh no, it's not a great eldritch, unknowable mystery. It's just some dude who's really evil. It's man versus man. It's not man versus the unknowable infinity of life. It's this really powerful wizard guy, and everyone's kind of really badass. And there's a lot of it's a bit more Marvel cinematic universe or action at this stage. But that kind of also makes sense because you have to start revealing what things are and what things mean. So how do you not end up in this space? But yeah, this season so far, There are bits I like. There are bits I don't like.
Well, and I also feel, I mean, one of the big things I don't know if people talk about enough on why season 4 was like a return to form and why it was better is because we had a tangible villain now. Because beforehand it was just these like globs, these like, and I mean, this is a whole nother discussion on how like creature design has been shit in not just Stranger Things, but in everything. Because I mean, the Mind Flayer is just like a spider thing that a kid would draw. But when we actually had a personality and a force for a villain, things felt more, I don't know, felt there was more at stake and more alive. But I think that's the other thing with this new season is that we open again with a Demogorgon, and Demogorgons are so boring. Their power level has been all over the place on if they could be stabbed by a woman or, you know, or also are they just, you know, ferocious beasts that destroy things, or are they what's it called? Like fucking foot soldiers that can go and kidnap people. Like, what is the mindset of a Demogorgon? And, you know, they'll be ripping apart soldiers, but then kind of just whatever when the kids or other characters are around. And I mean, the other thing is, I mean, there's too many characters on this show. We were already, even though season 4 was good, we were already feeling the effects of like, they have to split this team. They have to split it up because there's just so many characters that we have to have all these plot lines going with smaller swaths of the kids or whatever. Which is, it just becomes, I don't know, it becomes kind of more of a drag. But, and then with this first part, this volume 1 of 5 is, at least what attracted me to season 4 was, again, I think Vecna was a big part of it, even though you're kind of pitching it as like a kind of a negative. I did like that there was a personality and a force and something to battle. And he's very absent from this volume until towards the end. And from what I'm hearing, at least the speculation, because in the time frame from Stranger Things 4 to Stranger Things 5, they did have a Broadway show that's supposedly canon. And they hint at it in this volume that maybe we're going to humanize Vecna or Henry a bit more, and maybe the Mind Flayer is going to come back into play as the big bad. I mean, this show does love to humanize their villains, which I'm not necessarily against. I mean, Billy was that big one, like that racist brother. Was it Billy?
Yes. Him I completely forgot about until I watched like the recap thing. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy.
Yeah, remember he was going to have a relationship with like the Wheeler mom and stuff like that. Really bizarre stuff on this show. Yeah. Because I saw a thing where the actress who was on Sopranos, by the way, who plays Mrs. Wheeler, she was like, oh, the reason why she drinks so much more now than she did in the first season is because she's still thinking about Billy and the loss of Bill. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah.
But then, again, I don't have anything wrong with like fleshing out your villain, but I almost like Vecna more if he's just this evil guy. I don't want to get into how, you know, he was because even I think Stranger Things 4 sets him up more as a force. Like he killed his family and shit. But now it's going to be like, oh, no. The Mind Flayer was doing it all along. Like it was always the big.
That's just theorizing though. Like that we haven't seen.
That's
that so
true.
far.
This is all theory. But a lot of it is based. Apparently, that Broadway play is about Henry, and they hint at the cave, which the cave is also in Stranger Things 5.
True.
So it does. You're right, though. What I'm saying is speculation. This might not even be the case, but there's a heavy hints that the next few episodes that come out on Christmas might get more into Henry, and we might get into more of an idea of a misunderstood person or something or other. But yeah, that's yet to be seen. Now, going back to this one here. I mean, there's a big thing that happens that really just annoyed me because
let's just give like a light spoiler warning. We're not going to.
We don't need to play the jingle.
We're not spoil. No, it's light. It's spoiler light. We've had a lot of jingles.
Yeah.
And we're not spoiling the end. There's only 4 episodes out. Yeah. You know, it's fine. It's fine.
But they have. We get into the Wheeler sister now. The Wheeler sister is now the younger sister is more of a character.
Yeah, Holly.
Holly. And she has an imaginary friend, everybody. Now, if you live in the world of Hawkins, Number one, let's back it up from that. The rest of Hawkins, after the ground opened up and the upside down like came into our world, that was what the hint was. That's at least how I read the ending. It's like, oh my God, now the upside down is like Vecna is not gone and the upside down is now going to invade our world. But then
the world's ripped open.
As we mentioned, no, they just patched it up. They put some stuff down. But no one
else... Kids are sledding on the metal scar down this whole town.
And no one else in Hawkins thinks anything of it. Now, I guess maybe, I mean, they do get into the town's quarantined. Maybe they are making a statement on, COVID or something. I guess you can make an argument that people do, life goes on. But either way, our characters know about the upside down. When your little sister is talking about her imaginary friend, I understand part of you could be like, hey, that's a normal thing that kids do. But not when you're fucking Mike Wheeler, the fucking dungeon master. How do you not understand or see that something is going on here? Am I harping? Am I nitpicking here?
No. Because I do think it's kind of I can believe it. It's not unbelievable, but it is extremely stupid. Like I get them not telling the parents because they're kind of only there as like clueless placeholder characters anyway. But like, it's Stranger Things. You've been in this for 3 seasons. If there's a kid in this show, that kid's going to be involved in some fucked up shit. Would you? And literally, we have Mike telling her in the first episode, like, monsters aren't real, Holly. Instead of going like, hey, if you see this thing, do this or this. If they're vulnerable to fire, here's a flamethrower. How do you not do that? And Mr. Watsit, the fucking imaginary friend, I just thought it would have been so obvious to make it Vecna, right? Just for us as an audience, never mind Holly and Mike and all that. I was just like, it can't be Vecna because that's way too obvious. Mm-hmm. So I was going back in my memory Rolodex thinking like, okay, what other characters? Because this is the last season. They're taking old threads and winding everything up. I was like, who's been vaporized on this show? Who's gone into the upside down? Who could be like kind of helping out? I was like, is it Max? Is Max like the character? But my guess was genuinely Samwise Gamgee. I thought Sean Astin was somehow gonna pop up because that's a very Netflix thing of like, fucking guest actor, throw him back in there. But no, it was Vecna all along, which, as you said, kind of makes it stupid that no one would have thought of that or done anything about it when they're literally searching for any hint of Vecna existing. And the mom, as we find out in this, like, oh yeah, Mr. Watson has a first name. It's Henry. Like, no one asked about this.
Yeah. And I mean, you could almost try to make a play, but they don't. The show's not doing this. But I could see an angle where maybe Mike, since we've seen them grow up now, and he's almost an adult. Maybe if the idea was that since now he's becoming an adult, he doesn't think of those frivolous things like monsters and stuff. But it's so impossible for that to happen. Where they've literally
their whole life is they're in quarantine and they're constantly searching for Vecna through the upside down. And I wanted to mention that like I feel like they were like, how do we make plot happen? Because in seasons 2 and 3. I'm just calling them seasons. I'm not justifying. I'm not calling them Stranger Things. Seasons 2 and 3, it was basically like it was meandering, and they were kind of like, what is the plot here? Because as everyone I'm sure remembers, or at least we do, Stranger Things was supposed to be an anthology show originally, right?
Yes.
And it seems like the studio pressure was like, no, that really worked. Do more of that. So season 2 is literally more of that. The villain in the first season is one Demogorgon. Season 2 is, what if we had a bunch of Demigorgons? And the Mind Flayer or whatever. But basically, like, here's a bunch more Demigorgons. But it feels like they never really figured out how to plot it out for seasons 2 and 3. And what worked in season 4 and what they're doing now is, what if everything's a heist? Let's make everything a heist. Yep. And that's like when they're doing the dungeon crawl, they have a complicated setup, they have maps, the kids have a plan, and it does work to an extent because it's basically them going like, we have agency now as characters, we're proactive, we're doing this and that. And that's part of why it feels more like kind of a superhero sci-fi show rather than, a horror show or anything like that. Those aspects have kind of disappeared, which is not necessarily bad. But yeah, multiple heists this season. First, they have to do the heist of the dungeon crawl where they're sort of got a whole complicated setup to search the upside down. Then they have the heist of literally home aloneing a demogorgon, which I did enjoy. I enjoyed that aspect of like, it feels like even if a lot of stuff was forced to get there, I'm like, the kids are home aloneing a demogorgon. They're setting up a bunch of booby traps. They've got a plan. I enjoy that. And then they also have to do a heist to get the kids out of the military compound. So literally every episode is like one big heist that they're doing. So that's how they figured out the plotting of it. And it feels very different, but overall, I felt like you were saying like it kind of drags a bit or it doesn't know what it's doing. Just that aspect means that it feels like there's more momentum, which was so lacking in seasons 2 to 3. So I think the pacing overall is pretty decent with that in mind.
Sure. Yeah, I suppose. I was just kind of like, we're like, let's get to this. Like, I don't know, because it's similar. People are like looking at, they are going to be playing the finale in theaters here, in some theaters. And everyone's like hyper focused on the runtime. And it's like, you need to get past the point, like runtime, just because something's long doesn't mean it's going to be good. If anything, it means it's going to be worse. Yeah. Because a lot of these episodes don't need to be an hour. Like we could trim some of this shit down a little bit. But either way, I mean, they do have a lot of characters. So at least you're kind of checking in with everybody. I'm a big thing online. I mean, we've discussed this on like, shipping up to Boston. Is, everyone wants Mike and Will to be together. That's the big thing in my feed anyways, is everyone wants, and I mean, the show, in my mind, I thought it really kind of put a pin in that. Like it really...
Definitely, it slapped that down. It was like, yes, it's unrequited love. Go write your fan fiction. That's clearly not happening.
No, if you look at the Bylers online, they're convinced that's actually reinforced that that's the end game of the show. Because they're focusing on how Mike looks. Well, I'm just going to hint at the end, but the way Mike looks at Will at the end, they're like, no, that's because that's his.
Oh, now he's turned on because he likes people with superpowers. That's why he liked Al.
That's the point. Okay. No, that's the exact point. They're like, the only thing he talks about 11 is her that she's a superhero. So if you've got another superhero in the mix, now the game is on, my friend.
It is crazy that you're more tapped into this than I am, because usually I'm the one coming in with the shipping up to Boston stuff.
I clicked on like two or three Stranger Things tweets just to read people's reactions, and then my feed is now full of Bylers. It's full of like
Bylers.
The
the name,
yeah, yeah, and that's it's Will Byers and wait, why is it Byler again? Hold on, what was it? Because it's Mike Wheeler.
Will Byers.
Oh yeah, duh. Okay, yeah. So it's but they're very attuned to it being the end game, and it's that thing. We've watched a lot of TV. We're older. We've talked about this stuff in the years over this show. It's interesting to watch when an audience builds their own story in something, and then when they finally get the story, like if you invest this much time. We've seen it. These people are going to be very upset if it doesn't play out the way they want it to. So I've also, I'm stumbling a little bit on the mind flayer, the women that love the mind flayer and they want to get like tangled
tentacles.
up.
Yeah, I get that. No, I can see that. Well, I thought when you were saying shipping, I thought you were going to talk about Steve Harrington, because obviously like season 1, Steve Harrington and Nancy are like, they're together and we're with Jonathan. He's like the sad guy with the camera. And then eventually he gets the girl and they have zero chemistry. There's like a scene. They have barely any scenes together, but even though he's fucking lugging around a ring apparently. But yeah, Jonathan, I was like, Jonathan and your one, Nancy. I was like, oh yay, another scene with these two and they're fucking amazing chemistry. They have nothing going on there versus... I get if people are like, oh, I want Steve Harrington to be with this person or that person, because at least he's charismatic. And that's not even a dig at the actor. I don't know what it like, just the way his character is. He's just like the sulky older brother. That's all he's got going for him throughout the entire show, as far as I remember, Jonathan. So I don't understand why anyone would be invested in that. And they don't even seem to like each other in this season. Like they literally don't even have a single scene. And yet he's going to go proposing to her. So that'll be fun. But maybe that's going to go to hell. I don't know. They don't have, weirdly, because of all the characters and the long run times, they don't have time to get into it. But I agree with that decision. I don't want 5 scenes where he's like, oh, do I ask her to marry me? Fucking get it over with. I don't care. Get married or don't. Let's get on with things. So,
one of them will die or something, and then we'll see. I wonder if this show has the balls to kill off any characters. They're very precious with their characters. And again, not to get into that because it doesn't, just because you kill off a character doesn't mean it's great. But I'm just guessing just because there's so many characters. But one of the things with the Bylers point out though too is because Robin has her speech, and in her speech, her memory is just her by herself. But in Will's memory, who's there with him? Mike's with him. So Byler.
That's nothing.
Hashtag Byler endgame.
Okay, I don't remember everything from the previous seasons. Mike has been nothing but mean to Will for at least 2 seasons. There's been nothing there, but maybe people like that, I guess. So, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I'm on board. I want to see where we're going here. It's a fun show. It's probably maybe just stretched out its welcome a little bit too much. But I hope I'm hoping they stick the landing. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
I'll say this about the ending where Eleven and Hopper are trying to get in and find where Vecna's locked in a vault. I was like, surely it can't be Vecna in a vault, because they're literally like, it has to be someone powerful in there. It's got to be Vecna. And that's like telegraphing it's not Vecna. But then I was also like, I really thought Mr. Watson couldn't be Vecna either.
True.
So maybe he's just locked in there and he's using the kids to escape. But at least Vecna wasn't in the vault. That would have been shit. And putting number 8 in there, whatever her name was, that is a good move because everyone hated that side story,
Not me.
sneaky
I didn't
backdoor
hate it.
pilot shit. Everyone else hated that sneaky
everyone did hate
backdoor
it, but me.
pilot shit from Chicago in season 2. So that also means everyone forgot about it. Does that mean you're on board with her being back then? Now are you hyped?
I actually am really on board. And again, one of the main reasons why I liked that episode, I get everyone hates it, but it's because I wasn't enjoying the story, and I kind of liked that we diverted into more of a, for lack of a better description, almost like a Terminator style, because it was more like a, what's the word? Like kind of like a sci-fi noir style, but like X-Men, but also, X-Men. It was just a different style of 80s that I liked, and I kind of welcomed that we were taking a diversion, because I don't care about a Demogorgon or Demodogs or Demobats, which we don't see any of these things anymore. We don't, like, the military is just driving around and it's no big deal. So
yeah, that is part of why it feels not dangerous at all to be in the Upside Down, unless you run into people. But yes, and retroactively, I agree with what you're saying. It was an interesting, different thing that they tried to do, and the rest of the season was not good either. And also, number 8, this girl, she had like other powers, like she had like illusion powers and stuff like that, versus in season 4, when we get like Vecna the Henry introduction, all that, all these kids just have kind of the same powers. It felt a bit more like, oh, maybe it's expanding the world, and it's like neon and rundown cars and like Chicago city stuff. So anyway, most people forgot about it, so it's a good move to bring her back. It's one of those things like, oh yeah, finale stuff, let's bring it together. Also, I don't know how you felt about it, but I did think that Will has done fuck all for seasons. He's needed a badass moment for like 5 seasons, so I am glad that he got that at the very end, and that was a oh shit moment for me at the end of the season.
No, absolutely. I think it was a banger way to end the volume, where even if I wasn't enjoying other things, I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Because again, it felt like things were happening. It's something they've been kind of building to for a while. Yeah. I don't say that in a way of like it was predictable. Like it was a good, like, okay, yes, this is what we need to see. And it adds an interesting dynamic. And of course, it sets up Byler for Endgame. So I'm so excited for that.
Of course. Yeah, and we're going to see a team, like the amount of heists we've had so far, we're going to see a team up with 11, 8, and Will, and they all have to do different things at the same time. And Will's going to learn his powers and obviously kiss Mike. So lots to look forward to in volumes 2 and 3 coming out Christmas and New Year's.
Hell yeah.
We didn't even get to Pluribus, but we really literally don't have time. So you're going to have to follow us on your podcatcher of choice. Go to showswhatyouknow.com. Get all the episodes downloaded. Listen to them. Check out our Shipping Up to Boston. Go back to 2016. Listen to our first episodes on Stranger Things. Hear the joy, the untarnished adoration for Netflix that we had sparkling in our eyes at the time. You can find all that at showswhatyouknow.com. find more from Jim at jimandthem.com and more from me at awesomepedia.org. We all got websites. We got websites up here. We're doing it old school, guys. Get on a website. Load up a web browser, guys. Don't just
Go
go in
old
an
school.
app. Use a web browser. All right, download Firefox. Anyway, that's it. Thanks so much for joining us, and let us know what you thought of Stranger Things Volume 1 on youtube.com/showswhatyouknow. That's enough URLs.
Hell yeah. Thanks, everybody.